This is Service Hydrologist Mike Welvert with the National Weather Service in La Crosse. This is a spring flood outlook for the spring of 2014. We'll discuss the overall flood risk across the area. It is about normal for this area. Maybe it might be a slight bit above normal for parts of Wisconsin and maybe just a bit below normal for portions of Iowa, but overall it's about normal across the region. We'll take a look at the spring flood long-range probabilistic outlooks, and we'll also take a look at some other factors that go into the flooding threat, including how the snow actually melts, which is usually what is the greatest factor toward the flooding that we eventually get. Some background information to talk about. It was pretty dry late last summer and also in the fall. We did have drought conditions in some areas. So therefore, creeks and streams were running quite low during the fall and early winter, and many storage areas, including swamps, marshes, ponds, etc., they were all pretty low as well. So there is some room for that flood, for the runoff from the snowmelt to collect before it runs into the rivers. This winter has also been pretty cold. Don't need to really talk about that too much. I think everybody knows it's been pretty cold. The precipitation has been just a little bit above normal. The snow did come relatively early, but it hasn't been particularly deep or dense until just recently. Frost depth is also quite deep across the region, ranging from about 2 to 3 feet to as much as 4 to 5 feet. It's deepest where there's little or no snow cover, such as near roads and open fields that might have blown clear of any snow. And the depth is a little less where the snow is deeper and it provides a little bit of a blanket effect. River ice is pretty thick around the region as well, and more widespread than most years, so we could be looking at some potential for ice jams later on as well. Precipitation amounts and seasonal snowfall amounts since last fall have been just a little bit above normal, about 100 to 125% of normal. It seems like more than that, but we've had a lot of small events, numerous events that have had very little liquid water content, so it seems like more than it actually has been. The storm of February 20th did add a good deal of water to the snowpack, especially in areas of Wisconsin, northeast Iowa, where we had a lot of rain and sleet before the snow set in. Temperatures have been below normal all winter, from December through February, and we can take a look at some of these in graphical form. The two images here are for the seasonal snowfall. On the left is the departure from the mean, which is how much above or below normal it is. And looking at the graph, you can see those green colors indicate that we're anywhere from, say, 5 or 10% to as much as 20% above the mean, so only slightly above normal. On the right, the percent of mean is about 100% to maybe as much as 150, maybe a little bit higher than that, say 150 to 175% across parts of central Wisconsin. Taking a look at temperatures, again, I don't need to remind you, it's been pretty chilly this winter. In December, the temperature's running anywhere from 5 or 6 below normal to as much as 9 or 10 degrees below normal across the area. January running right about normal, the green color there indicating 0 to a half a degree above normal, and the yellow color indicating 0 to minus 5.5 below normal. Then in February, quite a bit below normal, as everybody seems to know already, anywhere from 10 to as much as 15 degrees below normal across the area. And it doesn't look any better for March. The 30-day outlook for March is calling for a pretty good probability of below normal temperatures across the Great Lakes region, including portions of Minnesota and Wisconsin in our area, as well as northeast Iowa. As far as precipitation goes, there's really equal chances whether it's going to be above or below normal, so there's no good signal there. Taking a look at the snow depth and snow water equivalent across the region. The image on the left is the snow depth, indicating as much as 15 to 25 inches from southeast Minnesota up into western Wisconsin, a lot of that coming in the big storm on February 20th. Lower amounts of 5 inches to maybe as much as 15 inches across southwest Wisconsin. Again, they had more rain there to help to melt off some of the snow there. Snow water equivalent is on the right, and that should tell you how much water is actually in the snowpack, and that's running generally 2 to 3 inches Some areas as much as 4, especially from the Twin Cities area over into northern Wisconsin, and maybe even a little bit above 4 in those areas as well. So how does this all translate into our flood risk? Let's take a look at some of the forecasts. First of all, we'll take a broad view of our flooding potential. If you look in the upper left, that's a map showing the chances for minor flooding. Any dot you see on there that is blue, there's less than a 20% chance for minor flooding. Anything in green is about a 20 to 40% chance. Anything in yellow is a 40 to 60% chance for flooding, and anything orange or red is above 60%. So you can see that the chances of flooding anywhere from 20 to as much as 60% in some areas. A few red dots in there that indicate an over 80% chance. But if you look at the risk for moderate flooding or major flooding, you'll notice that the vast majority of the little symbols there are all in the blue, which suggests less than 20%, and as a matter of fact, most of those are less than 5%. So it looks like if we are going to get any flooding this year, it looks to be of the minor variety. At least that's what it looks like right now based on the forecast issued in mid-February. Updates will be provided the first week of March. Taking a look at this another way, in this map here, anywhere you see a orange circle, there's a 50% or greater chance for minor flooding to occur. Anywhere you see a red dot, it's 50% chance or greater for moderate flooding. And there is one dot there over around the Portage, Wisconsin area that's greater than 50% chance for major flooding. So you can see from where the colored dots are, there's a little bit higher flood risk in Wisconsin than elsewhere. So how does that translate into the long-range outlooks? We'll take a look at that. First of all, just letting you know that the long-range outlooks are based off conditions up through February 17th, and the model is run looking from late February, the 25th, all the way into the latter part of May 26th. It does use a 60-year statistical analysis. It does not include 2003 data due to some data glitches there. So let's take a look at some of the graphics. First of all, on the left, this is just an example of what we can show you with these graphics. For Austin, Minnesota, wherever you see the black line there, that's the conditional simulation. What that means is, based off current conditions, the models are telling us that is our risk for any flooding. The blue line is the historical simulation, and that is based off history, that 60-year record. That's what a normal year would look like. So in this case, you can see it's pretty much right on top of each other, so right around normal for Austin, and even when you get to those higher flood level chances, it's actually a little below normal. So for Austin, very little chance for flooding based off the current numbers. Of course, if we get rain, that changes everything, but this is just kind of the general outlook. On the right is the graphic for La Crosse, showing just a little bit above normal for the flood levels from anywhere from 8.5 to 9 feet up to 10 feet, but then it becomes pretty much normal, even a little below normal as you get into the higher flood risks. We'll step down and take a look at Black River Falls, Wisconsin on the Black River. And there you can see that conditional simulation, meaning the conditions that are out there right now. Looks like it's above the historical simulation, so therefore there's a greater chance of flooding along the Black River, and that's likely due to all the snowpack up in that area. And a similar situation for Gaze Mills, Wisconsin, especially for those lower flood level chances in the minor range. Gets to be about normal when you get up to the moderate and major flood risk. So we'll take a look at just a table here of several sites around the region. Remember I mentioned that southeast Minnesota, northeast Iowa maybe had a normal or below normal chance. And you can see that reflected in the numbers. For Houston, the chance for a minor flood is about 9% is all. And for Lanesboro, less than 5%. Zumbro Falls, about 7%. And Rochester is also about 9%. So pretty low risk for flooding across southeast Minnesota. And if there is any, it's most likely going to be minor. Similar situation in Iowa. For Decorah, less than 5% chance for that minor flood. Dorchester, about a 20% chance. Elkader on the Turkey River would be about 32% chance. That's about normal for them. and also for Garber about a 15% chance. So relatively low chances for flooding in northeast Iowa as well. And in Wisconsin, a little bit different story. Black River Falls, about a 92% chance for minor flood, and even a 50-50 chance for flood levels reaching the moderate level. For the Trumbull River at Dodge, about a 95% chance for minor flooding, 27% chance of reaching moderate levels. Kickapoo River at Reedstown, 61%, Steuben, 58%. So a little bit above normal average chance for flooding there on the Kickapoo as well. And finally, for the Mississippi River, the chances are about normal. What you would look at for the Mississippi, Lake City, 20% chance for minor flooding. Wabasha, 64% chance. That's pretty normal for that area. Winona, 36, La Crosse, 33, and McGregor, about a 73% chance. Again, those numbers all pretty normal for the Mississippi River at those locations. Some factors that will impact the flood overall. If we get additional precipitation, obviously that adds more water to the equation. That could result in a increased chance for flooding. And again, we'll have outlooks again in first part of March. Average precipitation in March is about 2 inches, give or take, depending on where you're at. And in April, it's about 3 inches, give or take. The outlook for March calling for equal chances for above and below normal precipitation, as I showed you earlier. The type of melt is actually pretty important for what kind of flooding we're going to get eventually. A slow melt is optimal for us. That would limit the flood chances as much as possible. You have little to no rain or snow, drier humidity levels that allows for evaporation, and a slow melt. Temperatures, if they get up to 35, 40 degrees, so we get some melting during the day, and then it goes below freezing at night, that stops the flooding process or the melting process. So we get a little water melted off, runs away, and then stops, and then the next day it happens again. That's the optimal because we get rid of our water safely that way. If we have a rapid melt, that really increases our flood risk. If we get temperatures warming up into the 40s, 50s, or even 60s, and the low temperatures at night stay above freezing, we just keep adding more and more water into the rivers, and that usually ends up spelling some flooding problems. And if we throw any rain or additional snow on top of that, that just adds to the situation as well. One thing to note here, the longer that we delay our thaw, the longer we go through March or even into April, that would increase the possibility that we could get those rapid warm-ups and get those fast melts going on. And also increase the likelihood that we could see rain or even thunderstorms on top of it. So we would like to see the melting get going here in March and go in the slow fashion. That'd be optimal for us. We talked about frost depth. It is deeper than normal across the region. That may play a role in how the water runs off across the terrain today or this spring. The frost depths are the deepest, 3, 4, 5 feet where the ground is bare, like pavement, underneath pavement, or in an open area that's blown clear of the snow. The frost depth is just a little bit less, maybe 2 feet, 3 feet, where the snow has insulated the ground and kept that cold air from really driving deep. Some people talk about the frost out there, and when we do get our melting, the ground is frozen, so that water is just going to run directly off into the rivers. And while that's mostly true, we may still see a little bit of that infiltrate into the ground. The soil was pretty dry at freeze up, so there's likely some cracks in there. There might be some other porous areas that allow at least some of that melt water to infiltrate down into the soil. So hopefully that will alleviate a little bit of the flood risk. But a deep frost will definitely cause more runoff as we go through the spring. One last thing to note, with all the cold weather we've had, there's quite a bit of ice on the rivers and lakes. As we do get a melt here, that ice will break up and move downstream, so we do have the possibility for some breakup ice jams. We will have to watch out for those. If you do encounter an ice jam or notice one, please report those to the Weather Service. We need to know that information to protect others from any flooding risk. So if you do see one, report the location, how long it's been there, is the water rising, is water going around the jam, or is it really all jammed up? Is there any flooding going on? Is it chunks of ice, or is it just one sheet moving through? Is the ice moving, etc.? All those things. Report those as frequently as you can to us so we can stay on top of the situation. So in summary, the flood risk about normal for the area, maybe just a little above normal in Wisconsin, maybe a little below normal over northeast Iowa. The amount of flooding that we get depends greatly on how the snow melts, and of course if we get any additional rain on top of that snow, it only adds to our potential. The next outlook will be issued on March 6th. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me at the National Weather Service in La Crosse, and I'll try to answer those questions as best as possible. Thank you for your time today.